Thank you very much. I'm Peter Kauffman. I work for the College Board. The College Board is probably the oldest, largest, most important education organization that you've either never heard of or don't have a real firm grasp on what we do. We provide programs and services that help students prepare for and succeed in college. We are in charge of a test called the SAT, which you may have heard of. We also do the advanced placement program. So we're involved in a lot of programs that reach millions of students every year. And in looking at the education landscape, trying to figure out a way that we can get more involved in education reform and more involved in the effort to improve education nationally and globally, we had one huge weakness and one tremendous strength. And our weakness, frankly, is that we're a nonprofit. We don't really have much of an advertising budget at all. We can't spend money on ads and commercials. So that's the reality of what we want to do. We also have a tremendous strength. We're made up of more than 6,000 member institutions. Those are high schools, colleges, school districts, education organizations. We have more than 6,000 members. We have ties to over 130,000 AP teachers. We reach 7 million students a year through our assessments and programs. So we have a tremendous reach. So how do you engage the people you have an interaction with an outreach campaign when you don't have much money to spend? Social media was a natural for us. So as we looked for what we could do, that's how the Don't Forget Ed campaign was born. Don't Forget Ed is a grassroots effort meant to elevate education in campaign 2012. When we look at the presidential campaign cycles, every year there's chatter that this is the year that education is going to rise up. I have a political background, and I sort of think of education as an April-May issue. Education is an issue that the presumptive nominees for both parties will give an education speech in April. They'll post something to their website and say, no, education's important. Look, I put it on my website. The conventions roll around at the end of the summer. September and October, the campaign heats up. And I guarantee you that David Gregory will not be asking the presidential candidates in the debates this October, tell us what you'll do to fix education in America. And we think that's wrong. We think education is a top-tier issue. We've talked to voters in battleground states, and they say education for them is a top-tier issue, below only jobs in the economy, right on par with health care, with the deficit, and with taxes, every other issue that you've heard talked about every day on the campaign trail. We feel education should be a more robust part of that conversation. So we kicked off the event, and I have a video to show about the kickoff of our event. Kicked off Don't Forget Ed in June, and it was very successful. We really kicked it off with a bang. We put 857 desks out on the National Mall at the base of the Washington Monument to represent the number of students in America who drop out of high school every hour of every school day. So we have a little video here, just a 1-minute long video that goes through the making of that public installation. We're looking at 857 chairs.
Everybody turn off your laptops. We'll get the buffering back.
So I'll talk through. We'll go over the video in a second. But really, it was a successful launch. We had thousands of people tweeting about it, posting it on their Facebook pages. The pictures that you'll see in a second are very powerful. And it's one of those statistics that it's troubling enough, although some may encourage people to drop out of high school. The College Board happens to believe that the dropout rate is a crisis. It's both a crisis and a message. and it should be addressed as such. But really what this speaks to is there is a need to improve and focus on education. We had this public installation, the photos went worldwide. We had thousands of people reaching through their networks to millions of people, appearing on websites as far away as China and India. And really looking forward, we want to drive the conversation further. We have an open petition on change.org, which I would ask you, if you care about education, if you want the candidates to talk more about education and focus on education, I would ask you to go to change.org. We have 24,000 signatures so far. We need a lot more. We're going to be driving this for the next several months through Election Day. And the next big step is a push on August 15th. We want to get as many people, thousands of people, to tweet both campaigns with the message, "Don't forget Ed," to really get them to address it. And it's all going to be focused building up towards the convention. And we have a second video after the first. So the first one gives a scene of what it actually looked like on the mall. We're looking at 857 chairs that represent the number of students who drop out of school in America every hour of every school day.
Why the heck are you dropping out?
So what we're hoping this will do is help to generate more attention by getting people to sign our petition that encourages both presidential candidates to speak out about education.
I think sometimes numbers, they don't hit home until you see them visually displayed, and I think that's the power of this installation.
Well, I think it's just so helpful for folks to understand. Again, I think our biggest challenge is complacency in this country, and we need to jar people. We need to get them to understand the reality of the crisis that we're dealing with.
It's our future that's at risk, and it's the future of this country that's at risk.
And what that installation did, I really think it illustrates the power of social media and the power of images that people could walk through in the middle of the tourist season in Washington, see this, take their own photos of it, email it. We had tourists that were stopping, teaching their kids about it. We had sort of kids going through and asking more about the desks, what do they represent. We were lucky enough the Secretary of Education stopped by. And really we saw the power of a movement and creating a buzz around this. And we want to do more of that going forward. So we're leading up to the conventions, and I would just ask those of you who are like-minded, this is not an agenda-driven campaign. It is completely nonpartisan, and we're really not focused on any of the sort of traditional reform agenda items. We just want education to be discussed and get the play that it deserves on the campaign trail. So because it's nonpartisan, it's easy for us to engage. We're engaging our AP teachers. We have a do-it-yourself kit for educators and teachers in the audience. Go on our website, don't forget ed.org. Order the do-it-yourself kit, and it's a way to get your kids involved. You can teach them about civic action in a way that's totally focused on what they're working on this coming fall. And then that's the final video we have sort of lays out, it's our call to action ahead of the party conventions to really engage people. The next big push, August 15th, I would ask you to join us to tweet both campaigns, and also look for our next installation, which will be in New York City, August 15th. And with that, the next video is our call to action ahead of the party conventions.
Later this summer, the presidential candidates will stand on stage to accept their party's nomination. They'll tell us how they're going to fix the economy, how they're going to reform healthcare, and keep us safe. But what I really hope they'll talk about is education. Because right now, out of 30 countries, America is ranked 25th in math and 21st in science. I don't want to live in the world's 25th best country. Do you? For my generation, the stakes couldn't be higher. With a great education, we'll be able to compete with the world's best. Without education, we're lost. So I'm asking for your help. We can all make sure that when the candidates stand on stage to talk about the future of America, they begin by talking about education. So let's tell them, don't forget Ed.
Wonderful. So we are back, and we're going to ask Peter some questions about the Don't Forget Ed campaign and the College Board. So with that, Allison, you want to start us off?
Sure. Sure. So I'm really interested in the fact that you said this was a grassroots campaign, which is great. So how is the College Board making sure that you're elevating students, teachers, parents, and all of those people to really make this grassroots and get their voices involved in this policy discussion?
Well, that's the real challenge, is engaging people. We have a Facebook page that has gotten a lot of activity. We're on Twitter trying to engage people that way. And we're trying to engage. A couple weeks ago, we had our AP annual conference where we have 3,000 AP teachers from across the country come in every year. They have some professional development. They have sessions and different seminars, and we made Don't Forget Ed a big part of that. And we've tried to make this as easy as possible for people to get involved, and it really is as simple as going on the website, don'tforgeted.org, clicking on ordering a do-it-yourself kit, and what that has in it is start your own petition drives. It has tips on how to get your students involved, different things to sort of just spread the word and get involved. And again, the next focus is getting people to tweet on August 15th.
And did you have students and teachers work on creating that toolkit?
We did. I mean, again, the sort of the value of the College Board is we're a membership organization, and so that's the staff, our members are all educators. I'm not personally an educator, but yes, that has been a huge part of this, and really gives us the life of our board of trustees was involved in building it, and that's a panel of really top educators from both K-12 and higher ed.
And have you had students giving it? How do you make sure that students are advising in this entire movement, and not even advising, but actually taking the lead? So the young woman that was in the video, Marone Tesfaye, is a recent high school. She just graduated high school last month. She's not a professional actress by training. She's a real high school kid going on to college. And hopefully you'll see a lot more of her in the months ahead. And we really want to use her voice, be it op-eds, columns, blogs, hopefully getting her on TV a little bit, to really be the voice of trying to engage young people in this. Great, and I really hope the College Board is able to empower a lot of students to do that.
Thank you.
So I think, first off, by the way, if you have questions, I've got my tweet deck open, and the 140 EDU is still a little difficult to follow with some of the spam. So just in addition to the hashtag, if you just throw an @Chris Lehmann, I'm leaving my mentions window open if there are questions you'd like us to ask Peter. Obviously right now the education debate is a wide-ranging debate. College Board was involved in the creation of the Common Core. Mm-hmm. How does College Board's efforts to make within the national policy debate impact or affect the Don't Forget Ed debate? How do those things interact?
In some ways, they're separate. To be clear, the College Board is a huge supporter of the Common Core State Standards Initiative. We were there at the inception. Our incoming president, who takes over in October, was one of the key architects of the Common Core, David Coleman. We are very supportive of Common Core. Common Core is something that is, I don't want that to get into a political discussion, because that's less of a political discussion. And what we're trying to do with Don't Forget Ed isn't to push a specific education agenda. It really is just to elevate the issue of education and get it talked about. We're not taking a side on where you stand, but we would like a real active, vibrant conversation. And part of that, we're a 501c3, we're a nonpartisan organization, so we're not here to push a specific agenda. It really is to get the conversation going.
What is your best hope for that? So let's say the conversation happens. To what end, I suppose?
To what end? I think this would be a tremendous success if both Mitt Romney and President Obama in their campaign speeches carved out time in their acceptance speeches and talked about in a really substantive way how education is the driving force behind improving the economy, strengthening our healthcare system, our national security, really gave education the focus it deserves. And it would be, going forward, it would be a real victory if the presidential debate moderators had one question about education. Just get rid of gaffes on international trips and all the other sideshow issues that come across that make bigger headlines, and say, well, what would you do? Give it to us in detail.
Given that I think this president and certainly also Mitt Romney have made many talks about, the president got into, spoke about, challenged Congress, don't look at laying off teachers as a good economic solution. We've got both of the candidates on the record of talking about the need for STEM education, both of them talking about the need, about looking at America, as you cite, the PISA scores, the TIM scores. So it seems like it's being talked about. At what point do we need to actually move beyond talking about and move towards making some decisions about what we talk about? And again, not to put Common Core into a political arena, but what we teach and learn is arguably a political act. Do you see, if the conversation comes and there's all of a sudden a grassroots movement of, wait a minute, standards should be local, not national, and yet David Coleman was an architect of Common Core. What is the marriage between College Board's advocacy roles as a policy organization and now stepping into the grassroots, stepping into the political realm as you're doing?
Well, I think the great value of elevating an issue in a presidential campaign, and again, it's not just about the presidential candidates. There are targeted Senate races where education is a huge issue in these swing states. It's interesting if you can drive an issue and get people to talk about an issue again in the heat of a campaign in the September, October, where they're really talking about their priority issues. Then you have a body of evidence that you can go back a following year and say, you talked about X, Y, and Z, and now we're going to hold you responsible. So that's the action part of this.
Wonderful.
So I know the College Board, the mission statement is that you're committed to excellence and equity in education, and I'm curious because there's a whole wide range of opinions on what that means. So what about students and teachers who might not have exactly aligned visions? How can they also work to get education up there on the as a priority, but without agreeing with the same policies that the College Board advocates for?
Well, when we talk about excellence and equity in education, it's based on the belief that every kid should have access to a rigorous course load, rigorous coursework, to the best education they can. And that's not to say that they need to work hard, they need to prepare themselves, but we just want to expand the access. And it's not, and the debates over the past 10 or 20 years, and is it college for all? Does everyone need a college education? Everyone should be prepared to be successful in college, to be successful in their career. And we're at the heart of that. We're at the connection between K-12 and higher ed. And that's our core mission, is to promote that.
Given that core mission, Fair Test has done an analysis of SAT scores that show for every $20,000 of parental income, not only the aggregate SAT score, but each specific test goes up with parental income. It is the #1 correlative value. How does the College Board address what seems to be a nationally structural inequity with the number one thing that the College Board is known for, the SATs?
Well, first I would say the College Board is always clear, the SAT program is always clear about how SAT scores should be used. They should never be the sole criteria, and I don't know of any college or university where the SAT is the sole criteria. It is a part, it is one measure. It's a national standardized measure. It's a measure that is immune from grade inflation. Grades in America have gone, high school GPA has gone up over the past 30 years, and is there anyone in this room that thinks that the level of education and the performance of our students has gone up with those GPAs? So that's what we have, a standardized measure like the SAT to guard against those kind of things, that we can have a baseline measure that is part of the toolkit. Countless independent research, not our research, but independent research, and I know Fair Test has their own agenda that they're pushing, but countless independent research actually confirms that the SAT is a valid predictor of first-year college success into second year, third year, and now fourth year college success. So it is a very, very accurate predictor of performance in college, but it should always be used with high school GPA. And those two together, SAT score and high school GPA together, are the most valid predictor we have of how students will perform. Does it mean that for every kid? Yes, there's always anecdotal evidence of kid didn't do well on the SATs, brilliant student, does well in college. Of course, all I can talk about is statistically based off of a lot of research that has gone on. So that I would sort of take issue with where they're going, and I think it drives to a larger point here, the idea that's been discussed a lot as part of the education reform movement, the idea that the zip code means destiny, and the idea that poverty is at the heart of issues, less so education. And I think, yes, right? Yes, and not either or. Right. And I don't think that, yes, poverty is the driving issue. We have to correct that. But at the same time, I can't stomach sitting on our hands and not trying to work on education and allow the other issues to fester as well.
So we have one last question from the crowd, and that is, how does, as schools are innovating and changing, and we are seeing schools leverage all the incredible technologies we have today, how does the College Board see the changing landscape of what learning looks like in our schools, changing the College Board's mission, changing AP, SAT, and the general ways in which the College Board sees itself?
I don't think the core mission changes, but how we achieve that mission. We talk ad nauseum. If you walked into a bank today compared to a bank in 1950, it would be light years ahead. But yet, if you walk into a classroom now, maybe there's a whiteboard instead of a chalkboard. Otherwise, it's the same exact thing, and that's something that we have to work on and change.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.